Okay. Alright, so in the last video I showed you how to duplicate a Figma file via this drop down, clicking duplicate, how to grab screenshots using various Chrome plugins and then paste them into Figma, and then of course how to organize those screenshots by putting them into a frame and applying Autolayout. We also looked at how you can extract SVGs using another Chrome extension called SVG Grabber and how to leverage Chrome's native inspect tools. So if I right click any website using Chrome, I can click inspect and that will bring up the actual website HTML here along with the particular element CSS. So in the next couple of videos I'll be showing you how I turn these actual screenshots into actual Figma layers. Alright, so I'm going to turn on my keystrokes here so you can start seeing every single click that I make. Alright, so a few things to note. In Figma there's this hotkey that lets you zoom out to see everything that is immediately on your canvas, and that's Shift 2 on the Mac. I love this hotkey, so it really helps you zoom to really whatever your selection is. And then if you click in the canvas here where there are no frames, no elements, and do Shift 2, it zooms out so you have a full view of just everything in your purview, right? So Shift 2 to zoom in, click a layer here. We can even click the ChatGPT logo, zoom all the way in, click out of that. Shift 2 will zoom all the way out so you can see all your layers, all your frames. Okay. Another hotkey I love is just the ability to collapse all these layers. So in Mac, that's Option L, and it just makes these really neat, and it helps once you are working with a ton of layers here. If they're all expanded, it just really helps kind of tidy this up so you can see the topmost frames that are of interest to you, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tackle this login and sign up screen, right? You can see there are a number of elements. There's a logo, a line of text here, a line of text here, 2 buttons, and then down at the bottom, text, a divider, and some other text. All right. In the last video, I was trying to use this plugin called Recognize, which was an image to text plugin that would leverage OCR technology to extract the text. And I think the plugin actually is currently down. So unfortunately, we're going to have to manually type all these words. Well, actually, we won't manually type them. We'll copy and paste them from the website. But let's get started here. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a frame with the hotkey F. And then I know that I have a MacBook Pro and I am dealing with a width of 1728 in width. And this height is currently 984. So I'm going to adjust that. Okay. So this is going to be called ChatGPT Login Sign Up. So this is the login and sign up screen. And then right out of the gate, the first thing I want to change is the fill. So the background of this layer should be this color. And the way I got there is if you click a frame and change the fill color by clicking the square, and then using this eyedropper tool, you'll be able to kind of use this eyedropper tool to kind of hover over any layer inside the canvas and grab the actual hex color. So in this case, it's this little light gray, right? And then the other thing I need to do is put this logo inside this frame, all right? And now what I want to do is go to the website and highlight the text by double-clicking, Command-C to copy, and then come back here via Command Tab, and then paste this guy in. And then right out the gate, I know this is not the right color. This is black. I need white. So I'm going to change that color. Welcome to ChatGPT. Log in with your account. So in this case, I already have a layer. I'm going to duplicate this layer by clicking and holding down Option. And when I hold down Option and click and drag a layer, it duplicates it. So I'm going to type in here and paste log in with your OpenAI account to continue. And then down here I have a terms of use, copy, paste that there, and then privacy policy, right click, copy, and paste. Okay, so now I have a number of layers all above the ChatGPT login sign up page frame. So I need to put these layers inside. I need to nest them inside this frame. So what I'm doing is going to cut using Command X, Shift 2 to zoom into this frame, and then Command V to paste. So this gives me all my layers. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually apply auto layout to this whole frame. All right, so I'm going to hit Shift A, and you'll see that it automatically applied auto layout, but it also kind of broke a couple things, namely that it didn't keep the width and the height that I wanted, so I have to fix that manually. So change this to fixed width, change it to fixed height, and the width and the height that I want is here, 1792, and 984 is the height. Okay, and then you'll see also that the auto layout, so let's have a look here at auto layout. If I play with these little blue rectangles, I'll be able to kind of manipulate and easily push around all the elements inside this frame. So right now what I want is all of the elements to be in a vertical line. I don't want it to be spaced out. So if I double click or press X, it'll expand or contract. And then if I contract it, it'll see, you can see by default there's 110 pixels. I don't want that to be so many. So I'm going to change this to something like 16 pixels. All right. And then that is starting to look better. The other thing is, if I look at the selection, so if I select this whole frame, I have a bunch of colors here. I have the background, which is this darker gray. I have black and I have white. So I'm going to actually turn these into, use actual styles here. So what are styles? So styles are kind of predefined. You can have color or text styles. So predefined styles are essentially basically options that you save. So in this case, if I hit this minus, I can apply a fill and then select white. So white is a style I've defined by default. So let me show you how I create a style real quick. In this fill, I'm going to add this, or excuse me, I'm going to kind of define this like dark gray color by going to here and clicking add. And this is going to be called dark gray. Okay, and that's how you create a style there. So then if I click into the canvas, not on any frame, but in the canvas, you'll see I have my color styles here. I have a black, I have a white, I have a green, and I have a dark gray. Okay, so that's how you define a color style. We can definitely tackle that again in more videos. But as you can see here, I have a number of layers, the logo, some text, terms of use and privacy policy. The first thing I want to fix is I want the terms of use and privacy policy to also be white. But actually when we look at the website, these are not completely white. These are, what color is this? This is like a bit of a gray. It's a RGB 217, 217, 227. So what I'm doing is I'm using Chrome, and I am inspecting the Chrome browser. And you can see the hex color here, 8E 8E, the hex color here. Whoops. Text color 142.142.160. So that's what I'm going to remember. So if I change, let's see, terms of use and privacy policy, attach this, change this to use RGB. So you can change the color system from hex to RGB by using this drop down. I'm going to change this to 142.142.160. 142.160, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to get rid of the underline as well by doing Command L or Command U. All right, and then because these two text links are side by side, I'm going to throw these into a auto layout by doing Shift A, and then changing the layout from vertical to horizontal. You'll see by default there's 16 pixels in between, which is fine. And then I'm going to rename this frame. So right now it's called frame 1, Command R to rename. I'm going to rename this terms and privacy. All right. And now inside I'm going to add a rectangle. So the rectangle is going to be really thin. So I hit R and then click drag. And it's not a perfect rectangle yet, but that'll be okay. I'm going to change the fill of the rectangle from fixed to fill. So it's going to fill the whole container. And right now the container is this terms and privacy frame with auto layout. So this is the rectangle. I'm going to rename this, call it divider, and then I'm going to change the width also to 1 pixel. Okay, so now that's starting to come together. I'm going to have to look at this particular border here. It's 86, 88, 105. So let's change the color here. 86, 88, 105. Okay, so now that's starting to look a lot more like the website. And if I pinch and zoom in here, I can see exactly how much space they have here on the left and the right. If I go to computed, see there's 12 pixels on the left and the right on both sides of the terms of use and the privacy policy. So I'm going to change that. Right now I have 16. I'm going to update this to 12. So that brings them a little bit closer. Okay. And then up here, I'm missing two really important things, which are the buttons. So let me zoom out here, paste the buttons here. Buttons, I need these buttons. Copy this, delete, paste in here. Okay, so I have these buttons, and now I'm going to make these buttons because I'm almost done. Basically everything else is in place. So the way we can make a button in Figma, and this is like pretty important, is first we'll have some text, okay? And actually let's rename this, let's call it button. So this is going to be the button label, and this is just a text layer. However, I'm going to add auto layout to this text layer by doing Shift A. Okay, so now this button label has a frame, and the frame has a certain amount of spacing, both 8 pixels left and right, and 8 pixels top and bottom. So I'm going to rename this to button, and then I'm going to make it green. And I know this is probably not the right green, so I'm going to exit that, change this to be the green from the actual ChatGPT website. And then I'm going to inspect this, and it looks like this green changes. So it's 26, 127, 100. Let's make sure we have the right green. 26, 127, 100. Okay. And let's go back here. Let's see how big the font is here. It's 14 pixels. And there's 8 pixels of padding on the top and the bottom, and 12 on the left and the right. So let's go back into Figma and update our button. So 8 pixels padding on the top and the bottom, 12 on the left and the right. Okay, that's what it looked like. It had 8 top and bottom, 12 on the left and right. Let's see how much border radius has been applied. So if I make this guy a little bit bigger, so based on looking at the CSS here in the styles panel, there's about 4 pixels of border radius on the left and the right. So let's apply that. Okay, so now I have my button. And now what I'm going to do is, this is a really important concept in Figma, but I'm going to turn this into a component. So I can do that in 2 ways. I can click this, or I can use the hotkey, which I always recommend memorizing, Command-Option-K. And now I have a button, right? So now that I have this button, I'm going to use it and create an instance, what's called an instance of a button. So the way I can do that is I can click this guy, type button, and I'll see the button that I made. Click and drag, and there you go, I have a button. Or if I just type button and hit enter, it'll drop the button in the center of my canvas. So these 2 buttons look exactly the same. The main difference is this is merely an instance, whereas this is the parent button, right? Let's say if I had 2 buttons here, these are both instances, this is the parent. If I change this fill color to say, I don't know, a white or a black, right? It'll completely change all the child instances of the parent component. But I want to undo that. Hopefully you can start to grasp how powerful components is with just that simple change. If I change this button label to read something like label, by default, all of the children will also be called label. However, if I do come here and update this, that's going to stay the same even if I change the original to say button. Okay, so this is a really important concept called a Figma component that we will start to unpack much more in several other videos. But for now, what I'm going to do is really just focus on adding 2 instances of these buttons. This is going to be called login. The other one is called sign up. Okay, and then I'm going to put these into an auto layout, name this button group. Okay, and then change the spacing between them to 16. Let's see how much space is there between these guys. So the gap is 12 pixels. So I'm going to change this to 12. Okay, and then I'm going to cut that, get rid of the screenshot here, and paste it into the login and sign up. And then see how this layer is beneath the terms of use and privacy policy. I'm going to push it up like that. Okay. All right, we are definitely getting there. I think the finishing touch really has to do with making sure things are centered correctly. And so for example, terms of use and privacy policy really should go to the very bottom. Oops. And the way we're going to pull that off is we're going to put basically every other element into a frame. So this is going to be called top section, and then this privacy and terms of use and privacy policy is going to be called a footer. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the difference. So I'm going to click the overall frame that contains two frames with auto layout. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the two. So what's happening here? So by splitting the two, you'll notice that I automatically add a bunch of space between the top section and the footer layer, right? So for the footer layer here, what I'm going to do is change the width to fill, and then center my the items inside the footer, which, just a reminder, is just terms and policy. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of spacing here, because let's have a look. Because everything on the internet is a box, let's have a look at what is in the bottom here. Okay, so there's 12 pixels of padding on the top and the bottom in this sort of like footer section here. So I'm going to update my footer to also have 12 pixels padding at the top and bottom. Okay, and then if I go back to this whole page, I'm going to change the spacing, so there's 0 spacing, and then change the spacing for the left and the right as well. So now this splits both of them, and now what I want to do is that I have moved both of these layers where I want it. I want to remove auto layout. So I'm going to get rid of auto layout for this particular parent screen frame, right? So this parent screen frame no longer has auto layout. That means I can position the other layers inside however I want. And in this case, I want to move this top section to the very middle of the frame, like this. So the way I can do that is use this icon here. I can also use the hotkey Command V, and you'll notice if I hold down Option, it'll show me exactly how much spacing is at the top and at the bottom and the left and the right. Same with the footer here. If I hold down Option, it'll show 378 pixels on the top and 945 pixels to the very top of the page. So that is, in summary, how I would go about quickly taking the screenshot here and converting it to a Figma layer. So you can inspect, they're almost the same exact. Well, what I'll do is paste the screenshot again. They're almost one for one, and you can see that by changing the opacity. The main differences have to do with the font sizes, so let's go ahead and tweak that. So let's see, what is the font size? 16, 16. So what size am I using here? These are too small, 16. Okay, so I changed the font size there, and then that means it also needs to be centered again. So we're very, very close. We're very, very close. There's probably a small number of small tweaks I could make, but I'm going to stop there, and I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to tackle the next screen. But hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you found these videos helpful, please consider supporting me on buymeacoffee.com/Carl Lee. Thanks.